So type of questions and its usage, open-ended, best used for breaking the ice in an interview. You know, when there's an interview, you want to ask, how are you? You know, often get open-ended question, how are you doing? Yeah, things like that. And breaking the respondent's own words are important. And when the researcher does not know all the possible answer, then maybe you can ask this kind of open-ended questions for explanation or answering the question what and why. Then open-ended questions. Example, what changes do you recommend for the school to do in order to help students perform better? Then definitely the answer vary. The answer is it depends on you. Okay. So secondly, we do have the close-ended questions. So close-ended is best used for collecting rank or order data. Well, we do have a different types of measurement, like nominal scale, in order to collect that random scale. So it's all up to you. Frequency, intervals. So it's all up to you. What kind of scale are you going to use, okay? But when all responses choices are known, when quantitative statistical two results are desired, that is a characteristic of a closed-ended questions. Example, in which of the following do you live, a house, an apartment, a condo unit? So that's an option. Okay, so I think it's very easy to understand. And other forms of closed-ended question class, we do have the Likert scale. It's actually used for assessing person opinion and feelings about something. For example, please circle the way you feel about the following. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is disagree and 5 is agree. Right? So things like that. So it's measuring how like how likely or the likeness. Yan, yung likeness mo sa isang tao. And we are actually measuring it in a certain degree. Okay, your satisfaction to this. So it's also lead to the Likert scale. And multiple choice you best use for when there are finite number. So which of the following best describe you current civil status? So single, married, widow, divorced. So so when I say finite, these are all the choices that you have to put in there. You don't need to put others because it's finite number. Does that make sense? Other forms of closed-ended question is like this, rating scale. So these best used for this. So ratings in relation to other things. So you will see here the example. How likely would you recommend the current strand you are enrolled to your friend? So not unlikely and extremely likely. So this is an example of rating scales. Ranking scales best used for ordering answer choices by way of preference. This allows you to not only understand how respondents feel about each answer of options, but it also helps you to understand each one's relative popularity. So the bottom line here is this is the picture of the ranking questions looks like. All right, so that's how it is. Rank the following subjects in order to preference, like 1 being your favorite and 5 is your least favorite. And the option is given to them, given to the below. Yeah. So you have to put a number according to your interest to that particular subject, right? And of course, ordering the question. This is adapted from contemporary communication research by Smith, MJ, in the year 1988. So adapt, number one, adapt a general organizational pattern that complements a survey research objective. So you do have two general patterns. We have the funnel pattern, inverted pattern. So when we say funnel pattern plan, it begins with the broad questions followed by progressively narrower or more specific one. So the funnel pattern, can we just say it in a what is a good example of this time of it? Is that in I am looking for the word. I'm sorry. But what I am trying to say, Chris class, is just from narrow one, I mean from the broad one to a specific one. So from general to a specific, ito tawag natin sa final pattern. So there is the right word that I am looking for. I can't pronounce it, right? I can't even remember it. I think it's more on the convergent and divergent questions. So do you still remember that? The one that we discussed a while ago, the divergent and the convergent types of questions. So it looks like this. Inverted pattern, its narrowly focused questions are followed by more general ones. So from narrow, well, this is one is all you have to remember, but when we say inverted pattern, it's from the specific to general. All right. So secondly, topically related questions should be grouped together. A researcher should group together questions pertinent to a single topic then move to another topic. It is easier to answer the question that way. All right. And number three, easy to answer questions should be placed first. So easy questions serve as motivation, right? Because if you know the answer from the very beginning, like we as a teacher also doing that when we designing our questions. It's either for your monthly exam, assessment, anything like that. We want it to begin to as simple as possible because that will serve as a motivations. All right. So of course, we do have the tools that we are using in order to arrange that questions accordingly, from easy to hard questions to make it randomly in order. So things like that. We do have a tool, but of course, it's really hard to explain on this platform or for you this time because it's more on the terms used by the teacher. Okay. So it may sound jargony. Number four, questions should be ordered to avoid establishing a response bias. We do have the response bias. What does it mean? It only means that a tendency of a respondent to answer all closed questions the same way regardless of the content. Example, a respondent checks somewhat agree to all criteria. So this is what we call the response bias. I think this is self-explanatory. And now we do have the testing and revising the questionnaires. All right. So testing and revising the questionnaires. Have you experienced asking dressmaker or a tailor sew your school uniform? So what does a tailor or dressmaker usually do before finally giving your first on uniform? He or she would let you fit it first, right? Why do you think so? Right. So I know you already have your answer on your mind, but definitely the reason for that is we wanted to make sure that the uniform is fit to you. So same with the questions. We wanted to make sure that we designed the question suited or fitted to your respondents. That's the meaning of that. That is the same Okay, that is the same as the questionnaire. You are the tailor and the questionnaire is the school uniform. You need to check if the questionnaire fits the respondents and your target information. No matter how carefully you design a questionnaire, there is always the possibility of error. You always are certain to make some mistakes. The surest protections against such error is to pre-test the questionnaire in full in part, especially nowadays that we're using online platform or distance learning where everything can be accessible online or using digital technology. Can I say that? And then all you have to do is you have to test it first, especially if that's question. If there is something that is not understandable, then revise the question. If there is something wrong with the channel that you are using, or maybe the platform, for example, G Forms is not working, then you can address that right away. Right? Nobody is perfect. That's the reason why you have to test it. The only way that we can make it perfect if we determine the problem at the early stage, right? That is the last part of designing your questionnaire before finally administering and distributing it to your respondents. There are no fixed steps on how to test your questionnaire, but there are some general guidelines that might be helpful. Keep in mind that you are aiming to the questionnaire to be as effective as it is. Some practical tips on testing questionnaire. This is how it looks like. Find 5 to 10 people from your target group. This is just a suggestion. If you want to do that, then go for it. Then ask them to complete the survey while thinking out loud. Take note the opinions and feedback. Maybe you may probably getting a response coming from them like, I don't understand the question. I can find the next section. This is getting boring. Why it takes so long? Why asking that makes sense? Or things like that. No? So we All right, so sorry about that. My laptop is about to shut down. So, well, going back to our discussion class, some practical tips on testing questionnaire, all right? So you have to observe how they complete the survey. Note their hesitation or where they made mistakes in answer. This is indication that the survey questions and layout are not clear enough and needs improvement. So if the question is like this, maybe your instruction is not well or is not understandable by many. So circle the number that best represents your opinion on a scale from 1. So you will probably looking at this. All right. So there must be a great, good instruction so that you can able to, well, it's easier for your respondent to follow. So at least this is how it looks like for the example that is not understandable to them. So this is a subject to improvement or to improve. Subject for improvement. Is that what I meant? Right? So mistakes or sorry, make improvements based on the result quick tips before we finish our lesson. All questionnaire need to an introduction. Be sure to have one. All right. It is useful to begin every questionnaire with basic instructions for completing it. All right. And third is still the format of a questionnaire is as important as the wording and ordering. Kung Tagalog nga yung ginagamit, na language natin, na medium ng instruction, nagkakamali pa. How much more if you are using the English language as your medium of instruction. So the format of a questionnaire is important as the wording and ordering. Be sure that it is spread out and cluttered. Physical aspects such as page layout, font type and size, question spacing, and the type of paper should be considered. Always check. You know that minor errors could probably lead to a major problem because if you are not using the right punctuation mark or even the spacing, they may probably misinterpret the questions. All right. So be careful of the structure of the sentences, spacing, and of course, capitalize the letter if it's necessary to capitalize. And of course, space is also important. All right. So I hope you learned something for today's lesson and we finished the lesson already. And we'll be moving and discussing more of the lesson. Don't forget the synchronous activities that will be posted on your Google Classroom and answer that in the given time frame. All right. So I hope you learned something. Bye bye and